Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Forging Indestructible Self-Discipline podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Fontenot, and today I'd like to talk about the psychology behind self-discipline. So self-discipline is not just about motivation or brute force. It is deeply rooted in psychology, where habits, self-control, and the brain's wiring all play crucial roles in our ability to stay focused, make sound decisions, and follow through on our goals. Understanding how these psychological processes work can give us a powerful framework to strengthen our self-discipline and improve our ability to achieve our long-term success. It all starts first with the science of habit formation. So habits are the cornerstone of self-discipline. They are behaviors that become automatic through repetition, often without requiring conscious thought or decision making. That's what makes them so powerful. This automatically allows us to reserve our mental energy for more complex tasks, which is why habits play such an essential role in shaping our behavior and daily lives. So how do habits form in the brain? Well, when we engage in our particular behavior repeatedly, our brain starts to create neural pathways that make this behavior easier to perform the next time we try it. Initially, when we start a new behavior, it does require conscious effort, and we may need to remind ourselves to stick with it. But over time, this behavior becomes ingrained as a habit because the brain wants to conserve energy. It seeks to make routine actions automatic to free up cognitive resources for other tasks. A time frame that I've seen in some of the research I've gone through is about 2 to 3 weeks of conscious effort to make something, and then it becomes a habit where we don't even really think about it. It just becomes part of our normal day. Now, to do that, the process of habit formation can be broken down into 3 parts. Number 1, the cue. It's the trigger that initiates the behavior. This could be an internal feeling such as hunger or stress, or an external event such as seeing a gym bag or hearing a certain song. That leads to step 2, which is the routine, which is the actual behavior or action we take in response to the cue, such as eating a snack, going for a run, heading to the gym, which finally leads to the reward, which is the positive feeling or the result we receive from completing the behavior, like feeling full after the snack or experiencing that endorphin release after exercise. So this cycle, known as the habit loop, strengthens with repetition. The more consistently we follow this pattern, the more automatic the habit becomes. And over time, our brains begin to crave the reward, and the behavior becomes harder to resist. This is why good habits like exercise or saving money can be so powerful in shaping our overall discipline and long-term success. However, it is very important to know and realize that habits are not inherently good or bad. The brain doesn't differentiate between positive and negative actions. It simply strengthens whatever behavior is repeated. Therefore, the key to building self-discipline is developing good habits and intentionally working to replace the negative ones. This segues into the science of self-control and willpower. Okay? Self-control and willpower are often thought of as innate traits, something you either have or don't. But the research that I've seen shows that self-control is not a fixed resource. Rather, it's a skill that can be developed and strengthened over time. The science behind self-control is rooted in the brain's functioning, particularly in the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex, is the area of the brain responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and planning. It is what helps us resist immediate temptations in favor of long-term goals. When we exercise willpower, we are essentially engaging this part of the brain to override impulsive desires or emotions. However, again, the research I have suggests that willpower is limited in the short term. This is called ego depletion. The idea that willpower operates like a muscle that can become fatigued after being exerted for a long time. What that means is when we constantly rely on sheer willpower to make decisions, for example, resisting unhealthy foods or forcing ourselves to work when we're tired, we can experience a depletion of mental resources, making it harder to maintain self-control over time. I think all of us have experienced that. This is why people often give in to temptation after exerting a lot of willpower in a day. The key takeaway here is that self-control isn't just about sheer willpower. It's also about managing your resources and setting up your environment in a way that supports that good decision making. And how do we do that? Well, as we develop habits, they begin to influence our behavior on a subconscious level. This means that much of what we do every day is not the result of active decision making, but rather the result of our ingrained habits. Habits guide our decision-making process by bypassing the need for conscious thought. So once that habit is formed, it actually requires mental cognizant effort, freeing up mental energy for other tasks. For instance, if you've developed the habit of exercising every morning, you don't have to debate whether or not to go to the gym. You simply do it, because your brain is primed to follow through on that behavior. The more positive habits you build, the easier it becomes to make decisions that align with your long-term goals. Conversely, negative habits can hijack your decision-making process, leading you to make choices that may feel good in the short term, but are just detrimental in the long run. For example, if you have a habit of checking social media first thing in the morning, you may waste time on distractions instead of focusing on more meaningful activities like just moving forward and getting ready for your day. That could be reading, exercising, or just simply doing the things like shower, shave, make something to eat, get out the door on time. That is why self-discipline is so closely tied to habit formation. By shaping your environment and consciously repeating positive behaviors, you can reprogram your brain to make better decisions automatically. It's not about relying on willpower all the time. It's about setting up the system and routines that make the right choices easier and more natural. Simply put, set yourself up for success. So what is the brain's role? The brain plays the central role in self-discipline. It influences everything from the formation of habits to the exercise of self-control. Our brains are wired to seek rewards and avoid discomfort, which is why instant gratification often wins out over long-term goals. However, the brain is also highly adaptable and capable of rewiring itself to support better habits and stronger discipline. Neuroscience has shown that when we repeat positive behaviors, the brain releases dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This release reinforces the behavior, making us more likely to repeat it. Over time, as we consistently act in alignment with our goals, the neural pathways associated with self-discipline strengthen, making self-control easier and more automatic. Interestingly, mindfulness and awareness also play important roles in self-discipline. Again, the research I've seen has shown that when we practice mindfulness, which is being fully aware of our thoughts and actions, we are better able to regulate our impulses and make more deliberate choices. Mindfulness helps us pause before reacting, which gives the prefrontal cortex the time it needs to make a rational, goal-oriented decision instead of succumbing to immediate desires. How many of us wish at various points in our life where we've made probably bad decisions that if we had just taken 2 to 3 seconds to just pause, take a breath, but allow our brain to catch up with the emotion that hit us, we would have made better decisions, maybe be better off from where we are. Okay? Understanding the psychology behind self-discipline will empower us to take control of our behaviors and set ourselves up for long-term success. Habits shape our decisions by automating actions, while willpower and self-control can be developed and strengthened with practice. Our brain's ability to adapt to new routines and reinforce positive behaviors show us that self-discipline is not a fixed trait, but rather a skill that anyone can cultivate. By leveraging the science of habit formation, self-control, and the brain's reward system, we can build the mental framework necessary to achieve our goals. Personal discipline, fueled by positive habits and consistent effort, become not just a choice, but a natural part of who we are. I want to thank you for listening today. I also want to announce that there is a companion book to this podcast, also titled Forging Indestructible Self-Discipline, that's just been released on Amazon. It's currently in an ebook, and there will also be a paperback book that will be available to you if you want this in a form that you can read. And what I've found in my research that's led me to put together this podcast and publish the book itself. I want to thank you for listening. If you have any comments or hit the like button, I would absolutely appreciate it. I'm certainly interested in any examples or anything you might want to share on your journey towards your goals and your experiences with self-discipline. And I want to thank you for listening to this podcast. Have a great one, and I look forward to the next episode.